If you have been anywhere near a screen in the last 48 hours, you have seen the image.
Oh, yeah. It is absolutely everywhere.
It's grainy. It was clearly taken with a long lens camera from a distance. And honestly, it is just shocking.
Cruelly.
You are looking at a 66-year-old man huddled in the back of an unmarked car leaving a Norfolk police station.
And, he doesn't look like a royal in that shot. He doesn't have that practiced, polite smile we're used to. He looks haunted, absolutely shell-shocked.
Right. It is a really jarring contrast to how we're used to seeing him even in the more recent controversial years. Because this isn't just any man.
No, it is not.
This is, or I guess we have to get used to saying, was His Royal Highness, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, the late Queen's favorite son.
A Falklands war hero.
Exactly. And as of his 66th birthday, a criminal suspect in police custody.
It is the kind of moment that really divides history into a before and an after.
Huh.
2 days ago, Thursday, February 19th, 2026, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested by Thames Valley Police.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to just pause on the way to that sentence. A son of the monarch arrested.
Talk about a birthday to remember, but for all the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
Now, I think when that news alert flashed up on everyone's phones, Andrew arrested, about 99% of people assumed it was directly related to the sexual abuse allegations involving Jeffrey Epstein.
Right, which is completely understandable given the history.
But that is not actually the charge on the sheet, is it?
No. And that is the first massive misconception we need to clear up right away in this deep dive. The charge he was arrested on suspicion of is misconduct in public office.
Which sounds, I don't know, kind of bureaucratic.
It sounds incredibly bureaucratic, almost dry. But in British law, that is an incredibly serious common law offense.
Really?
Yeah, it specifically targets the abuse of the public's trust by someone holding an official position.
Okay, so this isn't about what happened on a private island. This is about his day job.
Exactly. It relates to that decade between 2001 and 2011 when he served as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment.
Which is a role we really need to unpack today because on paper it sounds like cutting ribbons and eating fancy dinners.
Enslaving at crowds, yeah.
But the reality in our sources was clearly much darker.
Much, much darker. But look, the mission for this deep dive isn't just to look at the arrest warrant.
Right, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's just the final scene in the movie. We need to trace the entire arc for you today. We are looking at the total collapse of the House of York.
We really need to understand how we went from the handsome helicopter pilot returning from war in the 80s to this disgraced figure in 2026.
Stripped of the title prince.
Living in what is essentially internal exile.
And facing an investigation that threatens the very mystique of the monarchy itself.
So let's start with the events of Thursday. Because for a royal, usually legal trouble means lawyers in suits meeting in quiet rooms with tea. But this was visceral.
This was a raid. Plain and simple. You had a coordinated police operation.
With the unmarked vans.
Unmarked vans rolling up to the Royal Lodge in Windsor. And that's his former home, which creates a whole other layer of drama we'll get to later.
Right.
And there were simultaneous searches happening at Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate, which is where he's currently living.
And he was in the interview room for 10 hours.
10 hours of questioning. He was released under investigation, which implies they have enough to suspect him, but they need to process what they found in those searches before actually bringing charges.
Okay, I want to drill down into this misconduct in public office charge, because to the average person, misconduct sounds like he used the wrong company credit card.
Or expensed a lunch he shouldn't have.
Exactly, but you're saying this is heavy. What exactly do the police think he did?
The core of the allegation comes from the new data dump we got earlier this year. The 2026 Epstein files from the U.S. Department of Justice. These files included emails that had been sitting on servers for 15 years. They suggest Andrew was leaking confidential government information directly to Jeffrey Epstein.
Leaking it why? Just to gossip? Or was there an angle?
To monetize it. To aid Epstein's private business dealings.
Wow.
Think about it. When you are a trade envoy, you get confidential briefings. You see geopolitical strategies, upcoming infrastructure projects, sensitive economic data.
So he had top-tier access.
The highest. And the allegation is that Andrew would get a briefing and essentially hit forward to Jeffrey Epstein.
Can you give us a concrete example from the source material? What kind of intel are we talking about here?
The files mention a confidential brief regarding investment opportunities in Helmand Province, Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. That's military-grade sensitivity? That's
Yeah.
not just a hot stock tip?
Precisely. It involves national security and reconstruction efforts. There were also sensitive reports from trade missions to Singapore, Vietnam, and Shenzhen.
And the timing on those is bad, right?
The timing is damning. He is sharing these reports almost immediately after receiving them.
So he's treating state secrets like hot tips for his buddy.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
And the emails discuss leveraging Andrew's, and I'm quoting the files here, aura and access to create a private investment office.
Aura and access. Unbelievable.
There were even internal government emails passed on about the Royal Bank of Scotland and Aston Martin. He was effectively selling his royal status and his government access.
The irony is suffocating. His job title was literally Special Representative for Trade.
Yeah.
His job was to uphold the integrity of British business. And instead, he's allegedly using that access to impress a man who even back then was a known predator.
It completely destroys the narrative Andrew tried to spin for years. Remember how he always claimed he was too honorable to cut ties with Epstein?
The famous loyalty defense.
Right. He said he stayed friends because of loyalty. These emails suggest the relationship was completely transactional.
It wasn't just friendship.
No, it was a business partnership built on selling access to the crown.
It makes you wonder if the loyalty was actually just dependency.
Absolutely.
But before we get further into the Epstein nightmare, we really have to rewind. Because I think there is a generation of listeners, maybe Gen Z, who only know Andrew as the pariah.
The punchline.
Exactly. They don't realize that he wasn't always the villain of the story.
Oh, absolutely not. In the beginning, he was the golden boy. You have to remember, when he was born, he was second in line to the throne.
The spare.
He was the spare, but he was the charismatic one. He was handsome, dashing, the Queen's absolute favorite son.
And the Falklands War in 1982 was the peak of that, right?
That was his defining moment. And we have to be fair here. He was genuinely brave. He didn't take a desk job to stay safe.
He was flying helicopters.
He was a helicopter pilot flying Sea Kings in an active war zone.
I was reading about the decoy missions in our sources. That sounds absolutely terrifying.
It's incredibly dangerous. You are literally flying your helicopter to distract an Exocet missile so it hits the water or hits you instead of hitting the aircraft carrier Invincible. He returned to Britain with a rose between his teeth, a literal war hero. The public adored him. He was the heartthrob of the family.
So how do we get from war hero to the nickname Air Miles, Andy? Where did the rot set in?
The shift really accelerates in that post-Navy era, those trade envoy years we were just discussing. It's almost a psychological case study.
How so?
Well, he left the strict structure of the military, and suddenly he's a royal with no defined purpose, but a massive appetite for the high life.
And a real taste for luxury travel.
Excessive spending.
Right.
In 1 year alone, he racked up £154,000 on hotels and food.
And remember, for you listening, that is largely taxpayer funded.
Exactly. But more than the money, it was the company he kept. He seemed to have this magnetic attraction to the wrong kind of money.
It wasn't just Epstein, was it?
No, Epstein was just the worst of a bad bunch. Andrew was taking meetings with the son of Colonel Gaddafi of Libya.
It's just casual networking.
Right. He was vacationing with a convicted Libyan gun smuggler named Tarek Kaitouni.
And the house sale. We have to mention Sunninghill Park.
Oh, Sunninghill. His former home? He sold it to the son-in-law of the president of Kazakhstan for £3 million over the asking price.
Over the asking price.
And then the property just sat empty and rotting for years. It looked like a payoff. It smelled like corruption.
It paints a picture of someone who felt completely untouchable, like the normal rules just didn't apply to him.
Untouchable and entitled. There were constant reports from government ministers during those years that he was arrogant, that he pestered them for bigger roles.
They wanted to be important.
He knew he wasn't the intellectual heavyweight of the family, but he knew he had contacts. He wanted to be a player, a deal maker.
In that desire to be the guy who knows the guy, led him straight into the arms of Jeffrey Epstein.
Which brings us right back to the center of the storm, the relationship that ultimately destroyed him.
The timeline from our sources is key here.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell introduces them in 1999.
Right. Now, Andrew's defense has always been that he didn't see anything, he didn't know anything.
But these files from 2026 and the earlier drops, they just obliterate that defense entirely.
Especially the emails regarding young women.
Yes, there is a specific exchange about introducing a clever, beautiful Russian woman.
It undermines the naive friend act completely. You don't ask a financier for introductions to young Russian women if you're just there to talk about trade tariffs.
No, you definitely don't. And at the heart of this entire tragedy is Virginia Giuffre. We can't tell this story without talking about what happened to her.
No, we cannot. She is the pivot point of his downfall. Her allegations were remarkably consistent for 2 decades.
She stated clearly that she was trafficked to Andrew 3 times in 2001, in London, New York, and Little St. James.
And she was 17 years old at the time.
And there is the photo. I mean, everyone listening knows the one. Andrew, arm around Virginia's waist, with Ghislaine Maxwell smiling in the background.
Andrew famously tried to gaslight the public on that photo for years. He claimed it might be faked.
He said he'd never been upstairs in Maxwell's London house.
But new emails from Maxwell herself, which were released in the 2015 batch of the Epstein files, confirm the photo is authentic. He was there. It happened.
It's hard to overstate how damaging his own attempts to defend himself were. I mean, the 2019 BBC Newsnight interview is literally still studied in PR classes as what not to do.
It was a masterclass in self-destruction. There was zero empathy for the victims, just pure arrogance.
The Pizza Express and Woking alibi.
It became a national joke. But really, it was just so desperate, claiming he couldn't have been with Giuffre on a specific night because he was at a children's party at a Pizza Express.
And then the sweat defense.
Claiming that he could not sweat due to an adrenaline overdose in the Falklands. He used that to try and refute Giuffre's memory of him sweating profusely on the dance floor.
It was laughable, but the reality underneath all of that spin was horrific.
Yeah.
He eventually settled the civil suit in 2022.
For an estimated £12 million, or about $16 million. And crucially, that money was partly funded by the late Queen.
That was very much the old guard way of handling things,
Right.
right? Pay it to make it go away, no admission of liability.
Exactly. Protect the institution at all costs.
But it didn't go away. And this is where the story takes a truly tragic turn in 2025. I think for a lot of people, the mockery turned into profound sadness last year.
Yes. The suicide of Virginia Giuffre in April 2025.
That moment, it felt like the air just went out of the room globally.
It was devastating. And it changed the public mood overnight from making fun of Andrew to just pure fury.
And then her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, came out in October 2025.
It provided harrowing new details, allegations of an orgy on the island, and horrific details about Andrew's team hiring internet trolls to harass her, even long after the settlement was paid.
So you have the memoir, you have the tragic suicide, and then in 2026, you have even more allegations surfacing. There was that letter about the exotic dancer.
Yes, a letter detailing a threesome and a second woman coming forward alleging she was trafficked to the Royal Lodge in 2010.
So the whole isolated incident defense completely crumbled at that point.
Totally collapsed.
With all of this piling up, the memoir, the new DOJ files, the suicide, the new allegations, the monarchy was backed into a corner. They absolutely had to act.
And this is where we see a huge shift from the reign of Queen Elizabeth to King Charles.
It's the difference between a mother protecting a son and a king protecting the crown.
People have started calling it the Carolean Purge.
The Carolean Purge. It sounds ruthless.
It had to be. Look, Elizabeth stripped the military affiliations in 2022, effectively firing him from the working family, but she let him keep the prince title and the Royal Highness style, even if he couldn't use it publicly.
She just couldn't bring herself to completely erase her favorite son.
Right. But Charles looked at the polling. He looked at the structural damage to the institution, and he decided to cut the cord completely.
So walk us through how that actually happened, because it wasn't just a simple press release on a Tuesday.
No, it was a formal process with a capital F&P. It kicked off in October and November of 2025. On November 3rd, Charles issued letters patent.
Which is a big deal in royal protocol.
It is the nuclear option. It formally stripped the Royal Highness style and the dignity of prince entirely.
So legally speaking, right now, as he sits in custody, he is not a prince.
Correct. He was not a prince. He was also removed from the role of the peerage.
Wow.
And stripped of his vice admiral rank. So he reverts to just a retired commander now, which is his actual earned rank based on his active service.
And his name, what is his legal name now?
Officially, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. That's it. Just a citizen.
That is a staggering fall from grace for someone born second in line to the throne. And he lost the house too, didn't he?
The eviction was the final symbolic blow in the purge. He had lived at the Royal Lodge in Windsor for over 20 years.
It has 30 rooms.
30 rooms, and he was fighting tooth and nail to stay there. But Charles forced him out and relocated him to Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate.
Marsh Farm. It sounds pretty rustic compared to a 30-room lodge.
It's a massive reality check. It's described in our sources as a remote farmhouse.
Mhm.
The reports on his lifestyle there are pretty bleak.
He's got a skeleton staff now, right?
Barely any staff. He lost his taxpayer-funded security. Charles is personally paying for private guards now because the government refused to foot the bill anymore.
I read he's basically become a recluse.
The reports describe him as a couch potato, watching TV, playing video games, totally isolated from the outside world.
Right up until the police knocked on the door this week.
Exactly.
So I want to zoom out a bit as we get to the end of this deep dive. What does this all mean for the institution itself? You mentioned earlier the mystique of the monarchy.
There is a famous quote by Walter Bagehot, who is a Victorian constitutional scholar. He said, "We must not let in daylight upon magic."
I love that quote.
It perfectly captures it.
Yeah.
The idea is that the monarchy relies on a bit of mystery, a bit of distance to survive. If they look just like us, or worse than us, why do they get the palaces?
An arrest warrant is a whole lot of daylight.
It is a floodlight. An arrest shatters the mystery entirely. When you see a man who was once a prince sitting in the back of a police car, looking scared, looking old, he becomes just another man facing the law.
The magic evaporates.
Completely.
But here is the crazy part that I had to double check in the source material. He is still in the line of succession, isn't he?
Technically, yes. He is currently 8th in line to the throne.
How is that even possible? The king just stripped his title.
Because the king has limits to his power. The king can strip titles and styles through letters patent, but the line of succession is determined by Parliament.
It requires an act of Parliament to change it.
Precisely.
And are they going to do it?
The political pressure is immense right now.
Yeah.
Members of Parliament are calling for it daily. They are arguing that you simply cannot have a man under criminal investigation for misconduct in public office anywhere near the crown.
It's a constitutional crisis playing out in slow motion.
It really is.
And what about the public? I can't imagine he has many fans left out there.
The numbers are catastrophic. His favorability is at 3%.
3%. That's within the margin of error of 0.
It's 3% favorable, 90% unfavorable. I have never seen numbers that low for a public figure in the UK.
Unprecedented.
But the real worry for the palace isn't Andrew. He's done. The worry is the contagion effect.
Does it spread to the rest of the family?
Right. Support for the monarchy generally is holding at about 64%. But if you look at Gen Z in the data,
The younger generation.
39% of Gen Z think abolition would be better. That is a massive warning sign for the future. They don't see the history. They don't remember the Falklands.
They just see the corruption.
They see the privilege protecting the predator.
King Charles seems to be holding up okay, though, in the polls.
His approval is holding at around 60%. People seem to respect that he acted decisively. If he had tried to protect Andrew like his mother did, if he had wavered at all, those numbers would likely be cratering right now.
The purge saved his reign, in a way.
In a very real way, yes.
So let's wrap this up. We are witnessing something truly historic here.
We are witnessing the total destruction of a public figure. From a prince of the realm, a war hero, to a suspect sitting in a police station, stripped of his name, his rank, his home, and his reputation.
It is a tragedy, but it is a tragedy of his own making entirely.
Absolutely.
And the stakes aren't just for him.
No. It is about the fundamental social contract. The British public accepts the monarchy's extreme privilege in exchange for duty and integrity.
And when a family member is accused of this level of corruption, selling state secrets, and abuse, that contract is broken.
It really proves that royal status doesn't provide immunity anymore. The shield is completely gone.
It is gone. But as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. We've talked about the arrest, the leaked emails, the trade envoy years. Andrew is facing the music now.
Finally.
But these emails, the ones where he's forwarding confidential government briefs to Jeffrey Epstein, they date back to 2010 and 2011. They were sitting in government servers. They were in official inboxes.
That is the very uncomfortable question.
Right. If these emails were sitting in government files for 15 years, who else knew about this conduct? Why did civil servants or ministers not flag this behavior at the time?
Someone had to know.
Exactly. And why did it take a foreign investigation? The U.S. Epstein files dropping in 2026 to finally bring a British prince to account.
That is the question that should keep people up at night. It suggests that the system wasn't just protecting a prince, it was protecting itself.
We will definitely be watching closely as this legal process unfolds in the UK. Stay tuned. This isn't over yet.
And by a long shot.